are going to be witnessing heat waves in the next coming month. Now, put this into perspective. Last month, New Delhi was bracing for cold waves. This month, the national capital and many parts of the country are gearing up for heat waves. Such temperature fluctuations were not really seen decades ago, but now they're becoming more and more difficult to avoid. Today, the Weather Department had some dire warnings for the upcoming months. One, starting from March, above normal temperatures will be seen in northeast India, central India and eastern India. This means it will be hotter than usual in most places in India. There's also an enhanced probability of heat waves between March and May. Both central India and adjoining northwest India could witness these heat waves. As temperatures show, this is India's hottest February on record since 1901. Let's listen in to what the IMD said.
The maximum temperature, if you see the top left panel and the bottom left, is the anomaly of maximum temperature. Many parts of northwest India and central India observed anomalously high temperature in the range of 3 to 6 degrees Celsius. Some parts of east central India got temperature 5 to 6 degrees Celsius on an average for the entire month. La Nina conditions are prevailing in different parts of the country. Nino 3.4, which is minus 0.5, just at the margin of La Nina and neutral conditions. So they are still prevailing. But if we see on the right-hand side, heating.
All right. Now, these high temperatures are usually linked to the El Nino phenomenon. You heard the IMD chief talking about a La Nina. La Nina was what was going on since the last several years. Now we're going into El Nino. It's a climate pattern that causes unusual warming of surface waters in the Pacific Ocean. It may be happening in the Pacific, but the El Nino conditions usually means bad news for India. It leads to rainfall deficit and drought-like conditions here in the subcontinent. So all in all, the country could be staring at a poor monsoon. Of course, those updates will come only in April. Now, India is already one of the most vulnerable countries to climate change. This dire forecast means there could be a hit on wheat crops, and other cash crops will also be impacted. So we're looking at a bad spell of weather. Now, what are the reasons for this? What does this mean? What is the impact? To speak on this, I'm joined now by Mahesh Palawat. He's VP of the Meteorology and Climate Change Department at SkyMet. Vimlendu Jha, environmentalist, also joining me on the show. Welcome to both of you. Mr. Palawat, let's begin by understanding this El Nino and why we're afraid of it. What can it do?
Nino means the warming of equatorial Eastern Pacific Ocean. So when temperature starts increasing over East Equatorial Pacific Ocean, they tend to drop over western parts of Pacific and we can say over Bay of Bengal and East Indian Ocean, leading to deficit rainfall. When sea surface temperatures are less, then cloud formation will be less, convection will be less, and rainfall will also be less. So during El Nino period, the southwest monsoon of our country, not only India, Southeast Asia receives less than normal rainfall. If we take data of last 50 years, then 80% of El Nino years witnesses deficient rainfall. Among those 80%, 60% years were drought years. So now this is evolving El Nino. Already we have seen 3 consecutive years of La Nina, and now neutral condition will be there by March, or we can say second half of March, and gradually evolving El Nino will prevail. And
so Mr. Palawat, just to understand very simply for our viewers, is it now a given that El Nino conditions will prevail? Or is this something we still need to watch? And if now we go into El Nino, for how long would that last?
It will last throughout the monsoon, and it is certain that El Nino will prevail. But as of now, the models are not very conclusive. The clear picture will be in the month of April, but now hinting is there that yes, sea surface temperatures are warming, El Nino will be there, and it will impact the southwest monsoon of the country.
Okay. What we can definitely see for sure is an unusually hot February. Vimlendu Jha, are these now regular weather patterns? Can we come to the conclusion that we are seeing the impact of climate change unfolding? Over the last few years, when there is rain, it's heavier than usual. When it's cold, it's colder than usual. And now you're looking at one of the hottest Februaries in history.
Yes, Tamanna, you know what? This afternoon I was doing a show on some other channel, and that was very specific to Uttarakhand. And it was about how Uttarakhand, there's not been any rain last 30 days, and it's actually going to be really extreme rain plus snowfall in the next couple of weeks. So that's the prediction of IMD as well. So imagine we're talking about three predictions here. We're talking about one, which was February, where we were talking about cold waves. We're talking about heat wave now. And at the same time, IMD is talking about in the next week or another, Himalayas is going to get snowfall. All of this is unusual. And therefore, we need to not look at these just as events, but as climate events. And you know what? IPCC report of last year clearly talked about heat waves and also talked about reduction in wheat and pulse production by almost 9% to 19%. But interestingly, it talked about this data 10 years from now, 15 years from now, or almost in 2050, many of this IPCC report was talking about 30 years from now what this world will look like. But imagine already right now, when we talk about Mumbai's air and air pollution, which is also because of climate in many ways, and of course because of local issues. We talk about heat wave, we talk about cold wave just 30 days ago. All of this is climate change, and it is all human-induced, it's all our policy-induced, and we just don't care to understand, and that's the saddest part.
You know, when we talk about heat waves, there are so many aspects to it. We've talked about impact on crops. Our power consumption is going to increase as people try to cool them down. Those who can will hide inside air-conditioned rooms, but that's a small percentage of the population that can. Vimlendu Jha, is it time for a policy that takes into account how to save lives when you are going to have such erratic weather patterns, and especially heat waves?
Tamanna, as a country, as a larger macro issue, it is not about saving lives or saving our sweat. When we talk about a change in temperature, it is not just about a discomfort of a certain population, rich or poor. It's largely about wheat that you mentioned in your introductory, in your introduction, or otherwise. Climate change is not just about discomfort. In the long run, it is about a larger discomfort, it's a larger transition, and a larger issues that our policies need to focus on. So yes, what you're saying, yes, I think a country, our policymakers, our government needs to acknowledge that if year after year, if February is becoming very, very warm, warmest in fact since 1905, then there is a pattern, and therefore we need to really make up policies which are adapt and in line with the current climate. Call it climate change, call it whatever, but if today our wheat, last year by the way, wheat was banned for export, and similarly I think the same situation is going to be this year as well. So distress, when we talk about wheat, is only one thing. It's a larger distress.
Yes, so you'll be short of food crops. You will have to increase coal imports because your electricity demand will go up.
Many
it will
things.
lead to water shortages
not just
as
that.
well. Yes.
Tamanna, not just that. Tamanna, we are also talking about erratic climate events because we are only looking at it from the point of view of wheat and coal. Wheat and coal are only two resources. Coal in terms of our cooling our body, wheat in terms of feeding our body, and export in terms of agriculture. But largely it means erratic weather patterns. It means Kedarnath-like episodes. It means September-like extreme flood-like situation that Delhi has had. So we need to be prepared that, this is not normal. This is not just about, it's not a GDP or a wheat production number that goes up and down. It's climate, for heaven's sake, that we're talking about, and which is not erratic. It's a pattern, because this is what it was last year, this is what it is this
Yes.
year, and therefore it might continue next year, and which basically means that our food production and our overall climate is changing, and we have to think about it. And if there is a locally induced reasons why this is happening, we need to really work on that.
Yes, we have to go beyond making the right noises on international forum and saying that we want to go green. It's time to really take some very discernible measures. Thank you so much, Mahesh and Vimlendu, for joining us on this quick discussion. We were